It's a big night for Ronald in Los Angeles. He does something nobody's ever done before. We'll discuss that, and I'll also answer all of your mailbag questions on this Mailbag Friday episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on Twitter at shorts.ball. Also, make sure you check out the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback you have for the podcast, and I will answer them as much as I can anyway. That's what we'll do on today's podcast, a Mailbag Friday edition of Locked On Braves. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit the thumbs up button there as well. I'm glad to be back. I want to thank you all for your support, all the well wishes. It's been a rough week with the little one in the hospital. We are back home. He's doing much better. So I appreciate your patience with me here, taking a couple of days off. And thank you so much for all the prayers and well wishes while we were out. Can't tell you how much that means to me here and the little family and community that we have created here together in Locked On Braves. So thank you so much for all of that. We got a good podcast today. It's a Mailbag Friday, one of my favorites of the week. I love making this podcast as interactive with you as possible. So I love these Mailbag Friday questions that we get, and we'll answer all of those and talk about Thursday night's game. As if I hadn't been getting enough sleep this week, I got none at all, even after coming home on Thursday, because had to stay up and watch that game. We'll talk about all of that. Before we do, though, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Let's briefly talk about Thursday's game. I'm not going to go into high detail here because we got a lot of questions to get to. If you want my more full, extensive recap on that game, go check out the postcast with me and Grant McCauley over on Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube, or you can get it in the Locked On Braves podcast feed wherever you listen to the audio version of the podcast. But I cannot talk about it. I mean, what a game that it was. Acuna with the grand slam, everything that happened that inning to get to that point. You had Arcia beating out a ground ball. You had the hit by pitch. He walks Nicky Lopez. Lance Lamb walks Nicky Lopez in front of Ronald Acuna Jr. You're not going to see that every day. But what a big moment it was. I mean, to come through like that on a day that he got married. I mean, we talked about the MVP race last week. I was already on the Ronald Acuna Jr. fence, although I'm obviously very biased, but just puts it over the top for me. First person ever to have a 30-60 season. People trying to discredit the stolen bases for Acuna need to just get out of here. Nobody else is even close to where he is in stolen bases, especially in the National League. So, I mean, just an incredible season that he has had, one in which like we've never seen, and he did it before the final month of the season. We still got a whole month of baseball left for him to continue to add to those historic totals. So what a game it was. What a moment that was. The game itself got a little dicey after the Braves took a 7-1 lead. You had a 3-run homer by Mookie Betts, 99-mile-per-hour fastball up and away, dotted by Spencer Strider, that Mookie somehow gets enough barrel on it to just sneak out of the right field over the right field wall. Could you imagine if Ronald would have robbed that, how huge that would have been? But Mookie's on one right now. Every time he puts the barrel on the ball, good things seem to be happening. And that got the Dodgers back into the game. A couple more home runs later as well, but the Braves able to hang on. Great job by Iglesias there. Came out a little shaky to begin that ninth inning, but found some great command there to get Kiki Hernandez to get that strikeout to end the game. So the Braves do win. I know it became a little bit more scary than it needed to be. Not easy to win in that place. That's why the Braves want that home field advantage, because they have not had a lot of luck out there in Dodger Stadium. And look, Dodgers are playing their best baseball right now. I mean, they've been good all year, but they've been playing their best baseball for a month or so now. So they're hot right now. Braves, they've been hot. They've been hot pretty much all year long. The Braves gave them a big punch. The Dodgers gave them a big counter punch, where the Braves were able to hold out and get the win in first game of that 4-game series. We'll see how the rest of it goes. Make sure that you are following Locked On Sports Atlanta. You'll get the postcast with me and Grant McCauley after those games. You can also get the audio version again and Locked On Braves. All right, let's jump into the questions. Got a lot of questions to get to. I apologize. Been kind of a crazy week. I haven't really been able to pre-read some of these questions like I typically do. So I'm going to be running through these first time reading them. And Matt starts it out. He says, I know as a Braves fan, we are biased, but do you feel the voters would vote Ronnie MVP if the season ended today? Again, we had a podcast earlier in the week, Taco Tuesday, talking about this very thing. And it's only happened twice in the last 20-something years where a player has led the league in OPS and WAR and not won the MVP. I think it was twice out of 12 times. So I feel like the voters would probably vote for Mookie at this point because they're going to look at OPS. They're going to look at WAR and those advanced stats that all tell us who's the most valuable player. And I feel like a lot of voters are just going to be lazy and look at that and vote for Mookie. And look, Mookie's very worthy. I'm not trying to say that he's not, but all the advanced analytics and metrics point to Mookie. All the stats point to Ronald Acuna Jr. You're talking about runs scored. You're talking about average. You're talking about stolen bases, on base, slug. Like all those numbers are pointing towards Ronald. And the fact that Ronald is having a historic season and did it with a month left, again, that leans me towards Ronald. I was watching MLB Network, and I know a couple of guys on there said they would vote for Ronald. So maybe not, but I just feel like there's going to be a lot of lazy voters that are just going to go look at WAR. They're going to see that Mookie has, 0.4 lead or whatever it is over Ronald, and they're going to vote for Mookie. And look, it's very close. Again, Mookie is very deserving with the season that he's had. One thing that D-Row did talk about on MLB Network is the consistency of Ronald. He has been the most consistent player all year long. His lowest month, he had a 298 average. I mean, he has just been, from start to finish, in my mind, the best player in baseball. Whereas Mookie, he's been really good. He got off to a bit of a slow start, and it's just now that he's really taken it to that next level. So it's going to be a tight race. Look, you can go either way. We are obviously biased, but I just think the historic type season that Ronald's having gives him the edge in my biased opinion. Another question from Matt. Going into the postseason, what's your biggest fear that could cost us? Possible options being bats being cold after a long layoff, lack of gas coming out of the pen, middle relief in general, or other. So bats being cold after the break, he can't do anything about that. So there's no sense in really worrying about it. Yeah, it's always going to be a worry, but there's nothing you can really do. In terms of things that concern me and weaknesses of this team, we've talked about it. It's defense. The Braves don't have great defense this year. I mean, RC is solid. He doesn't have a lot of range, though. Ozzy's just been okay. Michael Harris is great in center. Murphy is great behind the plate. Riley is great in his box. Matt Olson's been honestly just bad over there at first base. Eddie Rosario is what he is in left field. He's been better lately, and Acuna's good in right field as well. But I do worry about the defense because there's just been times, particularly in the second half, but really all throughout the year, they just haven't been able to make the plays that you feel like they can make. And again, it's not necessarily the errors. It's plays that, again, they're not errors, but they're plays that you feel like they could make that would make a difference. So that concerns me. Walks are the other thing that concern me. You saw that on Thursday night. Walks helped the Dodgers get back into that game. Whether it was Spencer Strider walking Betts to start the game that led to a run, or walking James Outman. Although you could say he probably should have struck out James Outman if the strike zone stays consistent, but still walks are a big concern for me, something that the Braves pitching staff struggled with for most of the season. So I would say, defense, and then I would say walks by the pitching staff are the two things that concern me the most going into the postseason. Bellfire says, geez, this Dodger series is going to be good, is not going to be good for fan blood pressure. Do you think winning this series is more important for the Braves or Dodgers? Do you think it ends in a split or in favor of the Braves or Dodgers? So in my mind, on a road, if the Braves can split this series and they won the first one, that is a win in my book. I think if the Braves can split this on the road, I think that gives the Braves a lot of mental advantage. If you have to go into a postseason series with them and go on the road, you feel like you can win there. And that's something the Braves haven't done a lot lately. So I think that's big for the Braves in this series. If they can come in and get a split, they can say mentally, okay, we can go in there and we can beat those guys. We know we can do it. I don't think winning the series does anything either way. And I know it's being built up right now as the top matchup between the two best teams in baseball. Both these teams have double-digit leads in their divisions. These games are honestly meaningless. And look, as a guy who was up all last night and my blood pressure was getting high because I wanted the Braves to pull this off. Look, I want to win these games, but in the grand scheme of things, whoever wins the series, it really has no effect on what might happen if these two teams meet in the postseason. It's fun because they're the two best teams in baseball right now for sure. So it's fun to watch and perhaps get a preview. But look, Braves aren't going to see Lance Lynn most likely in the postseason. So it's hard to judge, how these things are really going to shake out. But I think from a Braves standpoint, if you split this series on the road, I think that could possibly give them a little bit of, a mental edge. If they do face them in the postseason, they have to go there just knowing that they can win. So I'd say a split certainly is what I would predict, especially after the Braves won one game. But I think that would give the Braves somewhat of an edge. All right, got a lot more questions to get to. I've only gotten to 3 so far, but I want to take a break real quick to get to our sponsor, our great sponsor on this episode. We got a lot more questions to get to from our Mailbag podcast. We'll get to those here in a second. FanDuel is the #1 sports book in America. And right now, when you use Sportsbook and bet $5, you'll get a $100 off NFL Sunday ticket as well from YouTube and YouTube TV. And new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's getting pumped up for the NFL season. We had our draft the other night. I'm so excited about that. Ready to rock that Locked On Braves podcast, Fantasy Football League. Really excited about that. But you want to get into the action, you can do so over at FanDuel. Now's the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. Also, visit FanDuel.com/play-safe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, official partner of NFL. All right, the Braves and Dodgers will battle again on Friday night if you can take it and if you can stay up. That'll start at 10 p.m. Eastern. Catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. I told you before, I loved listening to West Coast games growing up as a kid, especially when Vin Scully was doing the call. Put the headphones in, lay down in bed, listen to the greatest sound in all of mankind, listening to a baseball game on radio. So maybe that's your recipe for the rest of this weekend as the Braves finish off this West Coast trip. Let's jump back into the questions. Got a lot to get to. Going to try to get to all of them. Large Lars says, is McHugh on the bubble? He isn't very effective in high leverage situations. I've maintained for several months now, McHugh's not on my postseason roster. I think there is a chance he gets cut when some of these guys come back. Nick Anderson was throwing off a bullpen today. So he could start a rehab assignment here pretty soon. He's potentially coming back. Got Jesse Chavez as well. So I definitely think McHugh is one of those guys on the bubble. I think it's McHugh or Tonkin right now. If somebody had to go, McHugh he hasn't been that good this year. I mean, you go look at his numbers. It's nothing like what we've seen from him in the past. So again, I maintained for a while, he's not on my postseason roster. I have no confidence, no faith in him. And he's a bridge guy. He's coming in the 5th and 6th to try to bridge that gap to the back end, whether you got a big lead or your big deficit. That's his role. I'd rather just see them put Kyle Wright or Michael Soroka or even AJ Smith-Shawver in that role in the postseason. I got more confidence in them than I do in McHugh right now. Baltimore Braves fan, can you explain how Strider is so effective with just 2 pitches? I'll try a little bit here. I know there's a good breakdown over on Pitching Ninja. Talks about this a lot, but first of all, it's velocity. You're talking about 97, 98 and big spin on it, which has that kind of right up in the zone type of velocity feel to it, which makes it feel even faster from the hitter's point of view. And the slider coming out of the same slot. And again, this is where you can go over to Pitching Ninja and he'll show you the overlay of fastball coming out and the slider coming off of it. For 45, 50 feet, it looks like a fastball that's coming in, and it's coming in at 97, 98. So you got to be ready. And then it's breaking off down and away. So it takes two elite pitches for you to be able to do this. And Strider has two elite pitches in that fastball and slider. And it's the velocity and the perceived velocity of it. And the fact that you can tunnel off that pitch in the same plane. And again, for 45, 50 feet, it looks fastball and then it's breaking off. And you got to prepare for one of those. Yeah, you can sit on one of them, but still, even then, these pitchers are so good that fastball is getting on you so quickly. You got to make that decision. And that slider just has such good cut and movement on it. I mean, it's hard to square it up. So it is rare. It's not typically a recipe for success at the big league level, but to do so, you have to have two pitches that are as elite as Strider and Strider's fastball and slider are. And again, I've said this year, I think a lot of players now have just sold out for that fastball. If they're going to look foolish on the slider, they're going to look foolish. But I think he's gotten beat a lot more this year with that fastball because players are just going to sit on that. You're getting it 50% of the time. Just sit on that fastball, hope you can time it up, hope you get it in a good spot. And we've seen those home run numbers go up this year. I mean, he's still great, having a lot of success because, again, you got to make that split decision so quickly. But I think we've seen a change from hitters this year that they're just going to sit fastball no matter what and hope that they can barrel it up. Nicholas Petrilli says, I believe it's fair to say that Bryce Elder is the MVP of this team besides Ronald. He has been so good and such a surprise. And without his emergence, this team has 8 less wins easy. What say you? I don't know that I'd label him the MVP outside of Ronald. I think I would definitely label him as maybe one of the more unsung heroes of the year with what he has done. Certainly what he did in the absence of Max Fried, how great he was in the first half. I mean, getting to the All-Star game, I mean, he has been fantastic. But, Strider overall dominance-wise, I think has been better than him. Maybe not ERA-wise. Charlie Morton's been right there as well. I mean, this Braves team's good. They got MVPs up and down, so it's hard to say one, but certainly Bryce Elder has been one of the biggest surprises and unsung heroes of this season with what he has done. NLCS Rosario, what is up with the bullpen management lately? Last night is a perfect example. It looks like Snit wants specific guys to pitch on specific days. McHugh Tonkin and Hand on 5th starter day, or giving guys scheduled off days, which is fine. So how does Iglesias manage to pitch 3 straight? It's a good question. It's something I talked about the other day as well. I think I talked about it in Monday's podcast after that Sunday game where I said exactly what you said. It just seems like on that 5th starter day, you're going to go with that 5th starter, see if they can get you through 5. And then no matter what, you're going to McHugh and Tonkin and Hand. And that's just who you're using that day. And again, I said this exact same thing on Monday's podcast. It feels like there are just set days right now that pitchers are going to pitch. I do not know why Iglesias pitched in the last game in Colorado. That one was, I believe it was a 4-run game. That one was a little surprising to me, knowing you had this Dodgers series coming up. I don't know what the thinking was there. I understand you want to get these guys some work, but then you go into the Los Angeles series and you're in a tight game and you want to go to Iglesias to make sure that you don't blow this one. Maybe he was a little rusty to start. Who knows what kind of effect that has. I think it's the 3rd time all year he's gone 3 days in a row. And it's great to see that he can do that because you may have to do that in the postseason. But if he gets hurt there because you used him 3 days in a row after you used him in a 4-run game in Colorado, that's a bit questionable. But it has seemed like the bullpen management here lately has been a little off in the way that he's used some of these guys. It just seems like no matter what the situation, it seems like a set day for these guys to pitch. And that's certainly what it's felt like lately. It feels more like spring training. Everydayer Cody Cooper says, you think it is likely that Dylan Lee and Jesse Chavez will be activated and Colin McHugh may be released when the rosters expand? Also, I think the Braves best just save Kyle Wright's comeback for 2024. He struggled in the minors. Do you agree? I don't agree with waiting for Kyle Wright for 2024. We'll see what happens. It's a little surprising. He did go from high to AAA in his last rehab start, but a little surprising that first start, it was 26 pitches, 23 strikes. And then his last start, it was 31 pitches, just 15 strikes. So that command going away like that, it's a little odd. I would have expected the command to be a little rusty coming back, but the fact that it was great in his first outing and then terrible in his second outing, but we'll see. It's going to take Wright several starts, and season is running out. But I still think if healthy, I think he can get back to a place where he can have some sort of impact. I've said for a while, though, now I'm not really counting on Kyle Wright from anything. If we get him, great. If not, it's not something I'm counting on. He's been out for so long this year. Who knows what he's going to look like coming back? So he's not a guy I'm counting on. Braves have already decided they're bringing up Dylan Lee. I thought they might go with Ben Heller, but they bring up Dylan Lee as one pitcher, and they're bringing up Forrest Wall. I thought Forrest Wall was the guy they would bring up. They can only bring up one pitcher with rosters expanding. So I thought it might be Ben Heller and Forrest Wall. They went with Dylan Lee and Forrest Wall. We talked about this earlier. When Chavez is ready or Nick Anderson, I think McHugh and or Tonkin are the guys that are on the chopping block there. Ron Chung says, even if Kyle Wright is able to come back, will he have enough starts in September to be ready for the postseason? Yeah, again, that's the question. I don't know right now because he's probably going to need at least 4 rehab starts to get back to pitching at the big league level. And then we're looking at, nearly mid-September. And then do you get 2 or 3 regular season starts to kind of show what you can do? So it's a big question mark. That's why, I've been saying for a while, I'm not expecting anything out of Kyle Wright. Maybe they do just use him in some sort of bullpen role and get him geared up for that. And he takes that, long reliever type role, or if you needed him to start a game, you have him there. So I think it's unclear right now what type of role or impact Kyle Wright will have. And that's why, again, I've maintained I have no expectations for him on the rest of this season. Leland Hurt says, Ronald is amazing. He gets married, he hits a grand slam, put him in the record book, steals another base, and wins the first game of the series. Is he the MVP or what? I don't see how they can bypass him. Your thoughts? And we talked about this earlier. He's my pick. I mean, what he's done consistently from beginning to end, a season in which we've never seen before, he is my MVP, but it's probably going to take a big September for him to get the award. Sean Griffin says, thank you for reforming the yo-yo thing on Monday, as it got to me frustrated as well. Got me thinking, with our huge lead among everyone, it could possibly be that AA is giving some of these AAA players major league time to see how they fit on the higher MLB level. Maybe. Again, it's just the whole yo-yoing thing for me is that none of these guys are really being given a chance. And if you were using them in spots where you can give guys extra days, which I think they've done some, then that makes more sense to me. But I think you're doing some of these pitchers a disservice to bring them up, give them one start, maybe 1 or 2 starts, and then you send them back down. And to do that, and then to give Yanni Torino's 5 straight starts, as bad as he was, again, it's just kind of frustrating. It is what it is. I mean, they know what they're doing, but it was just kind of frustrating for me. Sean also said, after last Sunday's game, McHugh's collapse on the mound, who would be a good replacement for his spot from AAA to bring up? Same for Chirinos, unless either finds the pick of destiny for baseball in a few weeks. So we talked about that as well. Think Jesse Chavez coming back, Dylan Lee obviously called up, Nick Anderson coming back. We'll probably take those spots. Harrison, what are the chances of getting Noah Syndergaard? Would he be worth it as a 5th starter instead of Vines, Soroka, Smith-Shawver, etc.? I don't think so. And look, Syndergaard was a guy I liked in the offseason to just plug into this rotation as a back-end starter. But at this point, I don't really see the benefit in that. I'd rather just give those innings to Soroka here in a couple of weeks when he's, I want to say eligible, but when they have that service time manipulation thing kind of worked out. I'd rather see Vines again or Smith-Shawver. I'd rather see Winans again at this point. So I don't really see the need for Noah. And at this point, if you sign him, he's not eligible for the postseason anyway. He would just be coming in to eat innings. And again, I'd rather just do that with the guys that you have in-house. Leland says, our bullpen struggling tonight, allowing home run and hits. Is this a result of overuse in Colorado? I don't know. It's definitely a miss in spots for Jimenez and for Minter. I said a couple of weeks ago, Minter to me, while maybe the numbers don't show it, I don't think he's been nearly as sharp since coming off the injured list, especially with that cutter. And that's what he gave the home run up on, a cutter that was just hung right down or stayed right down the middle to Max Muncy. That's where he got in so much trouble earlier in the year. That cutter was staying middle of the plate and nobody was missing it. That cutter has to be off the plate. It has to be down and away from lefties. It has to be down and in to righties. That's where that cutter has to go. For me, I like to see him working more of that fastball and establishing that fastball, which is still a really good pitch, and then throwing that cutter off the plate, trying to get chases on that. But for me, since coming back, he's missed way too much over the middle of the plate with that cutter. and that's going to lead to some bad results for him. Jimenez, I don't know what was going on with him. He struck out 2, but then he also left a couple out. Only thing I'll say about that is the Dodgers are just really hot right now, and they're swinging the bat really well. So I don't think it was an overuse thing. I think it's just poor execution from those guys on a couple of pitches. Leland also said, what's going on with Olsen? It's been 16 games without a home run. His hits have even taken a hit as well. Glad you're home. That means Levi is better. Great news. Missed you in your assessments. Thank you so much for that. And yes, we're glad to be home. I can't say what's going on with Olsen. To me, he's just missing. 3 hard hit balls on Thursday night. The launch angle just wasn't quite there. So it just seems that he's a tick off at the moment. But again, I think he'll get it going. He has most of the year. He's had some cold spurts this year, but for the most part, they've been pretty short. And he's been able to really kind of bounce back. So I think another kind of home run barrage is coming. If he wants to save it for the postseason, then by all means, save up. But hey, he's just been missing here lately. Even in Colorado, I really thought he would end this home run drought in Colorado, but just missing. That's what I'm seeing. He's just missing. He's also had some bad calls here lately. Not that that's an excuse, but it seems like all the calls are going against him right now. He's had a couple of calls. I know he's a tall guy, but he's had a couple of calls up above the strike zone by a good 5-6 inches called strikes against him lately. So I think he's just a little bit off. You look at some of these contacts, again, still making hard contact, but the launch angle is just under it a little too much. So I think he'll get it going here pretty soon. Sorry, Can't Baseball. Thought you were going to get this out early. Just recently found the pod and love it. I'm an everydayer now. Anywho, who do you think the Braves will call up for the September roster expansion? So we already got the news on that. Again, I said earlier, I thought maybe Ben Heller, he's been throwing the ball really well at AAA, but they call up Dylan Lee and they call up Forrest Wall. I thought Forrest Wall was the easy decision there. Thought they could have maybe gone Vaughn Grissom, but they probably just let Vaughn Grissom finish out the year. And I think Forrest Wall is a pretty solid chances of making the postseason roster with that speed. So bring him up now and maybe see if you can get him in there, see what he can do, still in a couple bases here down the stretch. So I thought Forrest Wall was the easy decision. And then again, I thought maybe they'd go Ben Heller for the pitcher, but getting Dylan Lee up. He hasn't been as sharp here lately, but hopefully he can get it going for the postseason. Haysby, could Jesus Aguilar get called up with roster expansions to be there to give Olsen a day off and give some good vibes? Would love to see him on the roster. I think he would definitely help in that clubhouse, but no, Matt Olson's not coming out of the game unless he absolutely has to, and Aguilar is just going to sit in AAA unless the worst of worst situations happen and Olsen gets hurt. Sean Griffin also asked, as it sounds great to challenge balls and strikes, I fear it'll be more abused. Well, the way the challenge system is now, I believe you can only do it 3 times a game so that it doesn't get abused, which I'm all for that. John says, you mentioned what it would take for Strider to get back in the Cy Young race, but as unbiased as possible, how close actually is it right now? So forget which betting site it was the other day. Obviously go to FanDuel to get the most accurate and up-to-date odds, but I saw where they had Spencer Strider before yesterday's game as the second favorite behind, I believe, either Blake Snell or Zach Gallen. They had at number 1. So he's right there. He can't have games like last night, though. He can't give up, more than really 2 runs. He's got to get that ERA down. I can't see them voting for him for Cy Young if that ERA is over 3.5. So he's got to get that ERA down to 3.3. And I think he has a really good chance to win it with all his other numbers. But he is definitely a possibility, but he's got to put up some more really strong outings down the stretch. I hate that home run from Mookie so much. Really ruined his line and his night. Nicholas Petrilli says, writing this minutes after Ronald's historic grand slam, was that not the sweetest home run you have ever seen him hit? Hoping we can hold this lead. Let's go Rays. We did hold the lead. And again, I jumped out of my seat. It felt just like that 2018 grand slam he hit against the Dodgers. Just a huge moment there. Robert Mullis, is the DFA rule in effect during the playoffs? I'm asking because chances are that somebody without options left, like McHugh or Tonkin, will not be on the playoff roster. It would be a shame to lose a player to another team because you left them off the playoff roster. So I think those guys are going to be free agents anyway after the season. But I don't know if that applies in the postseason. You have to DF. I think you can only use guys from your 40-man roster in the postseason. So I don't know that necessarily would apply. Joshua Root says, good to have you back, Jake. 2 questions. Are you at all concerned with Kyle Wright's most recent rehab assignment? His line didn't look good at all. What do you think the Braves' reasoning for calling up Wall over Grissom? I kind of already talked about both of these. I thought Wall was the obvious choice just because I think he has a good shot to be on the postseason roster, and you just let Vaughn continue to get at-bats at AAA till the season is over. As for Kyle Wright's rehab start, I didn't watch it, so I can't actually say what he looked like or how bad it actually was. I mentioned, though, 31 pitches, 15 strikes. That's not great and show that maybe there is a little bit of rust there. But certainly want to see more out of him his next time out. And again, it's going to be a little, a long process for him coming back from that after being out for so long. All right, next, we still got some questions from Twitter I want to try to get to and also set you up for game 2 between the Dodgers and the Braves. We'll do all that next. The Braves and the Dodgers will battle again on Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Catch every pitch of the Braves' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. We already talked about the news, Dylan Lee and Forrest Wall coming up with rosters expanding. We also have some news. Sam Hilliard, part of that was moved to the 60-day IL as he's been injured and out for some time. Braves will try to hold on to him for another season. He was having a really good year, so hopefully he does figure things out here and maybe gets another opportunity next year. So looking forward to that. Going to the questions on YouTube, and I did start posting on YouTube as well now for some of you that don't have X or whatever, give you an opportunity to ask those questions on YouTube. Matt Cox says, do you think they will keep flip-flopping between the AAA guys for the 5th starter spot for the rest of the regular season? I do, and I think they'll try to use it to give some guys rest at some point. Yeah, the roster's expanding now. You could potentially just bring up an extra starter for that spot. I think they'll call up Soroka once he is past September 13th, so they gain that extra year of control, and then maybe he kind of sticks in that spot. Rules still apply, though. If you're going to send a guy down or a pitcher down, they have to wait 15 days before they come back, so got to be a little strategic in how you do that unless there's an injury. But I do think they just kind of keep rotating that and maybe look for opportunities to give Strider, Morton Free an extra day of rest. Charles Berea says, watching the Braves game last night, I couldn't help but notice that the PA and the sound people for the Dodgers would play loud noises all the way up until our pitchers were nearly throwing the ball. I don't know if I'm nitpicking or is that as normal, just notice, seem to throw our guys off and lead to home runs late. I know the Dodgers are known for having the loudest PA system in all of baseball. I've been to Dodger Stadium once, but it was a day game. It was brutally hot. We left in like the 4th inning. It was the hottest I've ever been in my life. But I do know they're known for playing their music just extremely loud. So I think that's just something they do all the time. Hey, Steve Buchanan asked about Sam Hilliard. I just told you about Sam Hilliard. So answered that question already. Brandon Newman says, seems like the Braves pitchers had some jitters last night. Some of our normal pitchers didn't succeed. I think with those jitters out of the way, things will play out a little better tonight. Otherwise, our bats were electric. To be honest, I don't think splitting this series is a bad thing either. They wouldn't gain any ground. Plus, the Dodgers, no joke as well. It was never going to be an easy series. I agree with all that. Started with that at the top. Get a split out of this. That is a win in my book for the Braves. Playing on the road there, the way the Dodgers are playing. I don't know about the Braves pitchers having any jitters, but everybody said that was a playoff atmosphere. So that is, a good test for these guys. And like you said, hopefully that kind of prepares them for the postseason, because it did feel like that kind of atmosphere, even though in all honesty, these games are somewhat meaningless in the grand scheme of things. But speaking of meaningless games, we got another one on Friday night, and I'm going to be just as pumped up and anxious to watch this one as I was the one on Thursday, because it's Max Fried versus Julio Urias, 2 of the best lefties in all of baseball. Fried, he's been good since coming back, a 3.58 ERA, 32 hits, 5 walks, 11 earned runs, and 3 home runs, and 28 strikeouts in 27 innings. So he's been good, and I still feel like he's trying to find it. I still don't feel like he's got everything working. And, that's part of Max Fried's game. He has so much that maybe not everything's going to be working every night, and it's all about just finding what is working, how he can manipulate that and keep hitters off balance. So I love watching Max Fried pitch. It's so different from Kyle Wright. I'm glad they're on back-to-back days right now it's so different than Spencer Strider. because Strider's just, what he's bringing, and he's just going to try to overpower you. For Fried, it's all just about mixing, matching, trying to manipulate the hitter. So looking forward to watching him pitch again. For Urias, he gave up 6 earned his last time out against Boston, but he's been really good at home this year, a 2.30 ERA at home and a 7.07 ERA on the road. So Braves have been good against lefties, but Urias has been really good at home. So we'll see what wins out there. Again, it'll be the Braves and Dodgers on Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Drink a cup of coffee, put those headphones on, whatever you got to do. Late, stay up, listen, watch this one. Should be a fun one. It's Fried versus Urias. Catch every pitch of the Braves hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Braves. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of each and every day. Make sure you follow us on X at shortstopball and at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure you follow the podcast on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe, rate, review, all those things to the Locked On Braves podcast, wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.